All right, we're back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us, talking about marijuana in Tennessee and some issues at hand now that may, question how the prosecution goes for those caught with less than, half an ounce, which is a misdemeanor amount. Will they really be prosecuted anymore? I mean, the TBI says that they're against any kind of marijuana and it can go forward, but these attorneys here with us this morning, Kevin Teets and Joey Fuson, the defense attorneys, who say, yeah, based on the testing process, misdemeanor amounts, hard to prosecute, and you're not going to have your clients plead out on these cases.
Yeah, not until we know more, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, why plead out if they can't prove that what your client was busted with was marijuana because they're not testing it?
Correct. They'll have to show the level of THC that's in the cannabis plant or the cannabis substance.
When this all started with hemp and all this in the state, I knew this was coming, and I was waiting to find some attorneys that are jumping on this, and I think a lot of people are taking notice now, including the TBI. Let's go next to Tammy. Tammy, good morning. Hi, Tammy.
Hello.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Well, I have a question. 2 weeks ago, my son went for a driving violation in juvenile court. He's 16. The judge drug tested him. Well, no, he wasn't caught with any drugs or anything, but she drug tested him. He tested positive for THC. I tested negative, but they removed him from my home. With this new law, would that be something that would be not be able for the judge not be able to do, to remove a child from a home over this?
I see why she's asking, but I think the answer would probably be no, right? I mean, they tested him, came back positive for THC.
Well, I think that it should be pointed out that those testing that they do in juvenile court, those are they're dipstick type tests, and they're panel tests. If it's a question of whether he was consuming it, which it sounds like what she indicated when she tested him, he didn't fail. You may want to get it sent off to the lab.
To the lab, yeah. Those, is it a swab test or is it a blood test?
It's a urine test.
It's a urine test.
Yeah, and they put it, it's just a cup with a little strip with a bunch of colors on it. And what you find out now with the employers, a lot of people are concerned because just like her, that either the testing of the blood or the testing of the urine is going to show something that could get them fired, or in this case, get the child removed. There's actually additional tests that you can do to go test for CBD levels.
Yeah.
To show that, for example, yeah, there may be some THC in my system, but there's a whole lot of CBD which would indicate I'm consuming hemp, not.
Yeah. So the test maybe tests positive for THC, but not necessarily how much it was in there?
Yeah, it does not. It's just a plus or minus.
Then, ma'am, you may have a means of challenging that. The law itself won't, but the testing, you can challenge that. We should say also, I've heard this all along, is it not true that marijuana stays in your system longer than, say, for instance, cocaine? I've heard that some of the more serious drugs, like cocaine, and that can get pissed out of your body within a couple of days, where marijuana, if you smoke it once, can stay in your body and you still test positive up to 2 weeks.
Well, there's three things that happen. One, there's three different types of THC that happens. You've got the delta-9, which is your active THC, which is the one that gets you impaired.
Okay.
And then it breaks down into two different metabolites. One's carboxy and one's hydroxy. Those stay in your system longer. The delta-9 goes kind of up and down pretty quickly. It's what gets you
okay.
impaired.
Meaning that you're no longer high, but you could still test positive.
And then the second one stays in there for maybe 2 to 3 days, and then the third one could go as long as 30. Now I've seen it people as long as 45 to 60 who are consuming concentrates that have real high levels of THC.
Those are the three tests that you will see, like on a toxicology report, if they're testing for marijuana or testing for any types of drugs, that'll show up the delta-9s.
What's crazy about that, someone could get into an auto wreck and have smoked marijuana 3 weeks ago. And then the auto wreck, and they're testing blood. Oh, there's THC in your system. You're not remotely high when that wreck happens, but boy, that all of a sudden gets you driving under the influence.
Well, that's where you'd have to look at the test and see if it's the carboxy that's showing up or the hydroxy. Yeah, the only thing that would keep you impaired would be the delta-9.
But still, that's a pickle. You know, I mean, you have to have the testing, and that's what scares a lot of people off, which I understand.
Yep.
Let's go next to Kim. Kim, good morning. Hi, Kim.
Good morning.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Well, to me, in my opinion, I think that they should legalize it where it's for medical use, because it actually does help a lot of kids that have seizures. I know grown folks that have grand mal seizures. I know that I have neuropathy, and I've been dealing with pain for 30 years, and it actually has been one of the things that's been helping me keep me going, you know, and having to wake up in pain and it's not a fun thing, you know, and that's one way of coping with it, and it's good for, you know, the benefit medical.
Let me ask you this, Kim. Let me ask you this. So you use it, and I believe you that it helps, but you have to obtain it and get it illegally, right? Because you live in Tennessee, so you have to get the marijuana illegally, correct?
No, I don't. I go to, I use the hemp.
Oh, you use the hemp. Okay, so you're using CBD, and it's really helped you. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
And
I understand.
My opinion is they should legalize it. And I know there are so many laws to where they have tweaked it in Ohio and Pennsylvania to where, they can, I know it's going against the grain in some marijuana cases and everything, but if they go and look at some of the bylaws that to where they could have it in a certain range to where it's not as bad as everybody think it is, because it really does help a lot of people.
Yeah. It's anecdotal evidence and even some scientific stuff. Again, CBD that she's using is legal. It's sold everywhere now, I mean, gosh, you've got brew pubs making CBD beer now.
You even get it for your dogs.
Pets use it, and it helps with their anxiety when there's thunderstorms, people say. So anyway, yeah, she's absolutely right about that. I'm glad that's helped her. But I would imagine, I've done stories with individuals who have had bad, really bad arthritis that are smoking the marijuana. And I did a story a few years back where this kid had to go out and buy, not kid, he's an adult, but buy the stuff illegally, and that's the only way he could get it, but he was smoking it. It was the only thing that gave him relief and got him off all these super powerful opioids that were killing him. And yet now, though, but he would never buy a huge amount, and he was worried about getting arrested. Now, based on this, if he were to get arrested with a misdemeanor amount and call one of you two, you think you could defend him successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked about earlier, I think his admissions, the other evidence they found on him would obviously factor in his criminal history. There's a lot of things that factor in, but knowing the problems they've got with the testing would create a good possibility of defense, especially if the case went to trial.
Yeah, based on what's happening in Tennessee, and they're not testing everything, except maybe on a special request from a DA, right?
Correct.
Let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Dick.
Morning.
Just listening to your program this morning. The way I see it, and that's just my opinion, but this thing is headed in the future to legalizing marijuana in Tennessee. But if you would, I've heard some of the law enforcement from some of these states where they have legalized marijuana, they would tell you right quick, you better study it long and hard before you do it, because it's not the golden goose that everybody thinks it is. He said, we're having a whole lot of problems out of it, and he said, we got people moving into this state and growing marijuana and stuff even in their backyards and stuff. So we're getting a lot of people from other places coming in here just because it's a cash crop.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. But for people that need it medically, I have no problem with that. But you can go to California, you can go in, give a doctor $200, and he'll give you a medical marijuana card. He don't care what you got or what you don't have. He's just selling you a medical marijuana card.
Yeah. And I agree with Joe, though. I mean, this is a path toward legalization of some form of marijuana nationwide. It's because other states that do this are in the same pickle as Tennessee are going to have the same issues, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on top of that, the whole issue of other states having problems with it. Look, officers may not tell you this on the record, but I've talked to plenty of law enforcement officers saying if they're responding to some kind of situation, domestic or otherwise, they'd much rather deal with people that are stoned than drunk, and certainly behind the wheel. And that's not to say driving stoned behind the wheel. You're still under the influence and it's dangerous and it's wrong. But compared to someone drunk, 9 out of 10 law enforcement officers have told me, man, both are wrong, don't get me wrong, but if I've got to deal with one over the other, the drunk is far worse.
Yeah.
And marijuana compared to booze, and the sheriff will even say this here in Davidson County, one's not worse than the other.
Yeah, and the state, I think it was State Troopers Commission, NHTSA, the National Institute of Highway Traffic Safety Association, and they did a study, I think it was in 16 or 17, seeking to see the effects of cannabis on drivers and to see if there's a correlation, and they were really disappointed with the results, that there was not as much of a correlation between any traffic accidents, fatalities, anything like that, compared to alcohol and opiates.
Compared to alcohol or opiates. Again, all of it would be inappropriate to be under the influence behind the wheel. But there's different degrees of it, folks. And, all these things that are illegal, like opioids and alcohol, which is fine, whatever, And marijuana, I mean, don't even try to argue which one's worse between opioids and marijuana. If you think marijuana is worse than opioids, you're crazy. We'll take a break. When we come back, more of your calls and more of our discussion about the laws here in Tennessee and how these defense attorneys plan to defend their clients if they're caught with less than half an ounce of marijuana right after this.